What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel, Joy Speaks, a channel that I created to provide a voice for the recovery community. And when I say recovery community, I'm referring to people who are struggling with substance abuse, alcohol, mental health issues, and their loved ones. Because as we know, it's not just the addict or the alcoholic who's affected, but also the community that surrounds them. And before I get started, I want to ask you guys a big favor. Hit the like button, hit share, and most importantly, hit subscribe. Hitting subscribe will cost you absolutely nothing. It's free of cost. All that will happen is you will be granted access to everything I have going on my channel. And if you hit the notifications button, you'll be notified every single time I put out some fresh content. So I want to say thank you to everybody who's subscribed so far. I'm on a mission to 500 subscribers. We just hit our first 100. So thank you. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your shares. Thank you for your comments. And thank you for your engagement, because it helps the algorithm and it helps my channel get noticed by more people. So thank you. Today's topic, how to quit vaping. I just quit vaping after a long journey, multiple years of smoking cigarettes, who transitioned into vaping. And I just hit 90 days. Free of vaping, free of nicotine, and I want to share my journey and hopefully, inspire you guys who are trying to figure out how to navigate quitting vaping. And I first want to say this: quitting vaping will not work until you are willing to do anything and everything to stop. We've talked about what rock bottom feels like, and so you have to have hit your rock bottom, in my opinion, in order for this thing to work. You can't be in that gray area of maybe I want to quit, maybe I'm not sure if I want to, maybe I don't know if I'm ready. You have to be absolutely sure, because if you're not, you won't have the willingness to navigate through the discomforts that you experience once you start quitting. So I want to give you a little bit of background first of like what kind of vapor smoker that I was. So I constantly vaped. Like first thing in the morning, I'm hitting my vape. Before workout, I'm hitting my vape. After a workout, I'm hitting my vape. Before a meal, I'm hitting my vape. After a meal, I'm hitting my vape. I'm hitting my vape on the toilet. I'm hitting my vape periodically through my shift at work, hitting my vape on a lunch break, then a really big vape session after I clocked out of work, vaping my lungs out, vaping all the way home, and then vaping before sleep, and then also falling asleep with the vape in my hand and waking up periodically throughout the night just to hit my vape to go back to sleep, only to wake up in the morning and first thing on my mind is, where's my vape? That's the kind of vape user I was. I had to have multiple vapes on me at all times, just in case I lost a vape, or my vape ran out of juice, or my vape died. I always kept a spare. I always kept a backup. It was really bad. In fact, it was so bad that there were a couple times when, I was rushing to get to work and almost got to work and realized I didn't have my vape and had to figure out where the nearest vape shop was so that I could find a vape, which almost made me late for work. So definitely some degree of unmanageability in regards to my neediness to stay vaping. And I'm going to be honest, I thought that vaping was a safe alternative. I had a decade plus of smoking actual cigarettes, and so I thought it was a healthy thing to vape, because it's not smoke, it's vape. Right, but that's just one of the many lies I would tell myself to kind of rationalize my continued use of vaping. And really, it's the nicotine addiction. Yes, there is an addiction to the physical movement of putting hand to mouth, absolutely. But at the root of that is the ingestion of nicotine, which is a stimulant, which is the biochemical addiction that I've just recently had some success overcoming. So yeah, like I said, I was a chronic vapor, vaping all day, every day with multiple vapes on me. And like I said, in order for this to work, you have to be willing. You have to be willing to get uncomfortable. And so you might be asking, did I try a nicotine patch? Did I try the gums? Did I try the smoke-free, or I'm sorry, the nicotine-free vapes? And the answer, plain and simple, is no. Not to say that like other people have not found success using nicotine patches and using the gum. However, if you're anything familiar with my channel, you are already fully aware that I'm an addict in recovery. And so I know for me, I would just get addicted to the next thing, which would be the gum, right? Or the patches. And so what I was seeking was true freedom, true actual freedom from nicotine, meaning I don't need to make sure I have a bunch of patches. I don't need to make sure I have a bunch of packs of gum. I don't need to make sure I have an extra battery. I needed to detach myself from that obsession. And so going into this, I knew that if I substitute one for the other, I'd still be stuck with some kind of addiction and some kind of attachment. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted pure, serene freedom from nicotine. And so the first 24 to 72 hours, 1000% are the hardest, because during that period, you're not only suffering withdrawals from the emotional addiction and obsession, but also the physical, the chemical, biological withdrawal happens in those first 72 hours. And so some of the side effects that I experienced in that first 72 hours were dizziness, feeling lightheaded, feelings or senses of restlessness, not being able to keep still, feeling very jittery, feeling very on edge. Definitely, my anxiety was induced a lot higher than it typically is. And there's almost this feeling of like you're kind of navigating the world, or like you're going out in the world and you're going throughout your day without your shoes on. So it's like you can get by and you can get through, but something feels inherently off and you can't really put your finger on it. Like that's what that first 48 to 72 hours felt like, very irritable. I mean, very quick to become irritated and to become agitated and to kind of just jump to a pessimistic way of thinking. That's part of what I experienced as far as like mentally in those first 72 hours. And then I also experienced pretty uncomfortable headaches. The headaches didn't last for more than maybe an hour or so, but the headaches definitely came on around like the first 24 to 48 hours. And the headaches would generally happen at night as opposed to in the morning. And I'm someone who doesn't like to medicate. So yes, there's always an option to take like some kind of, over-the-counter substance to like alleviate my pain. However, like that's just not the lifestyle that I live. So I just kind of, stuck it out. And it wasn't overwhelming, and it wasn't a migraine, because I have experienced migraines. These things were headaches, not migraines. And so, yeah, getting through that first 72 hours as far as feeling very physically uncomfortable was definitely a challenge. I'm not even, it goes, I don't have to explain that, of course, you're having cravings. And for me, I was having many, many, many cravings. I'm going to be honest and say probably in the first, 48 to 72 hours, I was having on average 20 cravings a day. Because you got to understand that like everything that I did as I navigated my day-to-day life had some kind of connection or some kind of relationship with vaping. And so whether that's driving to work, just having that time alone in the car would typically be a time when, I would hit my vape. Or, like I said, eating, the whole ritual of like, finishing a meal just so I can go outside and enjoy a vape. So you're hyper aware in those first 72 hours just how deeply rooted your vaping routine is into your day-to-day lifestyle. And so part of what was happening was like this dual thought process of like, yes, I am definitely missing my routine of vaping, but also, wow, like I spend a lot of time and energy investing into this substance. And so, once you push past those first 72 hours of, the headaches, also insomnia. I was someone who felt like I had to hit my vape before I went to sleep, which is counterintuitive because nicotine is a stimulant. And obviously, it's just like having a shot of espresso before going to bed. Like, it makes no sense. And so, to not have that routine, it was the missing component of the routine that was making me feel anxious at night. I don't think it was missing the stimulant of the nicotine that was messing me up. I think it was just knowing, like, I don't have my regular go-to of doing this process before I go to sleep. So now I feel like I can't sleep. And so those first 72 hours were really, really, really tough. Um, and so each craving, I would say, lasts between 3 minutes to like maybe 10 minutes, 3 to 10 minutes, depending on, like, where I was at. Obviously, a craving that I'm experiencing while I'm in transit from one place to another is not going to be that long, because once I pull up at my destination and I get out the car, the craving is gone. However, experiencing a craving at night, particularly, like, my most intense cravings were when I would clock out of work, because then it's like I've got the rest of the night, and then comes this like obsession of like, I want to vape, I want to vape, I want to vape, I want to vape. And so I really want to highlight this part of the process, this phase in quitting nicotine, which is addressing the craving head on and like demystifying it, right? Like, we have to eliminate this illusion of what this craving actually is. So for instance, if I'm feeling worked up, I'm feeling anxious when I clock out of work and I'm having a craving, what am I actually craving, right? Am I craving some calmness? Am I craving some sense of relief? Because if that's the case, which for me it definitely was, that means that I'm not actually craving this nicotine, because the nicotine is actually going to be a stimulant that's going to induce my anxiety. What I'm actually craving is a sense of calm. So one of the most powerful tools that helped me process and kind of navigate my cravings was mindful meditation, right? So if I'm feeling amped up and tired and worked up from a hectic day at work, and now I'm experiencing what I think is a nicotine craving, I have to apply some open-mindedness and look at that and say, well, what is it that I'm really wanting? So what I'm really wanting is to actually wind down. So just taking a moment to download an app. There's hours and hours of free guided meditation, breathing meditation on YouTube. Look it up, and just giving yourself some time to slow your breathing down. So now I'm creating a new behavior pattern that's actually more conducive to what my body's trying to tell me, right? So my body is trying to tell me I need some calm. So now I'm eliminating this old behavior pattern of ingesting some stimulant to seek some calmness, which is really purely by definition insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I'm putting this stimulant in my body when I want to calm down, but then I'm expecting myself to be calm. It just doesn't work, right? So if I flip it and I address whatever it is that my body needs, right, with a solution, which is mindful meditation, now all of a sudden I'm practicing a new behavior pattern that's conducive to what I feel like I need. So if I need some calm, I'm going to slow my breathing down. I'm going to do some guided meditation. Another thing to look out for, super, super, super important, while we're on the topic of cravings, is like, for me, I immediately wanted, if I couldn't get my vape and I couldn't get my nicotine, I wanted the next best thing, right? And so for me, my brain internalized that as like sweets, desserts, candy. Now, I've shared before in a previous video that I'm on this like fitness journey. And so my diet is pretty regimented. I don't do candy or sweets or junk food at all. And so here I am again, like thinking to myself, what is it that my body is craving, right? And so it really was that dopamine release that I was craving, and since I couldn't get the dopamine release through vaping and I couldn't get the dopamine release through sweets, I had to play a trick on my mind. So I really got into juices and fresh fruits. And so supplementing or substituting, candy, or I'm sorry, fruits for candy was a great way to kind of trick my brain into thinking it was getting a treat, right? So there's some delicious grapes. They're called cotton candy grapes. Game changer. Get you some cotton candy grapes. If you haven't had them, please go out and get them. They taste legitimately like cotton candy. So when I'm experiencing these cravings, and I know I can't get to I can get to my vape, but I want to have a new experience around what this craving feels like. So now I'm going to go get something sweet, and no, I'm not going to get chocolate or sour candy. I'm going to get some cotton candy grapes, right? Yes, they are a little bit higher in sugar content. However, like no one's ever, unalive themselves by eating too many grapes. So that was just like one of the hacks that I use. Like, so if I can't get the nicotine and I can't get the chocolate sweet rush, I can trick my brain into thinking it's getting something like candy by eating something healthy. And then that in turn just makes me feel better about myself. When I'm putting things in my body that I know my body needs and that I know will make me feel and look better, I actually feel better. So by 2 weeks, I can say that the cravings reduced to about maybe 5 times per day. For sure a craving in the morning, for sure a craving right after a workout, for sure a craving, after a meal, and for sure a craving right after work, and then maybe another craving like right before going to sleep. And then by 30 days, the cravings reduced to about twice a day. So that would be typically in the morning and then typically when I clocked out at night. I would say the cravings that I experienced before going to sleep went away before the cravings right after I clocked out from work went away. That the craving after clocking out from work was literally the last craving to subside. And I remember it was like, I want to say maybe like 40 days into it, and I realized like, oh, I've been off of work for like an hour now and I'm not craving. Miracle. Like best feeling in the world. And so by 45 days, I had no more cravings, no more regular cravings. My restlessness had subsided, my irritability had subsided, my lung function improved. So, before, like I said, before I quit vaping, I would vape heavy right after a workout. And so by 45 days, what was happening is I was working out the same amount that I was working out before, especially in regards to cardio, but I was significantly less winded. And not only was I significantly less winded, I was also significantly less sweaty. So I could tell that my body wasn't taking the beating that it was taking before. I had more endurance, I had more stamina. And so now, by 45 days, I'm starting to pay attention to like the physical changes. I could notice a difference in my skin tone. My skin tone became a little bit brighter. I noticed a difference in my dental hygiene. My teeth seemed brighter. My gums seemed pinker. My lips also seemed more pink, which was nice, right? And no one in this world is not going to appreciate, seeing some kind of physical improvements, especially somebody like me who's like, can be very physically insecure at times. So that was a major bonus, to look in the mirror and start to see my skin brighten up and start to see my teeth get a little bit whiter. Like that's the kind of motivation that inspires you to kind of stay on whatever your journey is. And so my sleep began to stabilize around 45 days. I'm not gonna lie, so like I've talked about in previous videos, I am 3.5 years clean and sober from a lot of substances. And so sleep has been a constant journey and process through my recovery. I will say, like, the first 30 days of quitting vaping, my sleep was all over the place. And I can say now at 90 days, like, my sleep has improved, but I can't say like I have perfect sleep patterns, because I don't. I do think that me quitting vaping has allowed my sleep pattern to kind of stabilize a little bit more soundly, but it's still a journey. And I live by the notion of progress, not perfection. Um, so not only do you start to get this sense of physical accomplishment, but there's also this thing that kind of happens at 90 days where you're like, I can take on the world, because you look back and you reflect on just how uncomfortable the last 90 days have been, and you realize that you've done it. And I know for me, like, I had to have a really strong and really improve my connection between me and my higher power that I choose to call God. Um, I needed that. I needed that reliance on that higher power, especially in those early stages of like craving and feeling uncomfortable and feeling like I was crawling out of my skin. All those times when, I would instinctually go and pick up my vape then became times and moments where I can try to plug into a source, to my source, right? To practice meditation. That was one of the beauties of this entire process is, the longer I stayed away from vaping was the more frequently and consistently I meditated. And as I meditated more frequently, I became closer and more intimate with my higher power, which I choose to call God. So that's another one of the bonuses that have come along from, quitting vaping for 90 days. And yeah, this has been quite the process. I have absolutely no craving or desire to pick up a vape or a cigarette today. I will say, like, in the past couple of weeks, I've experienced some emotional triggers that have reminded me of, like, this would be a time when I typically would pick up a vape. However, I have enough clarity and wherewithal today to know, like, a vape is not going to calm me down. A vape is not going to solve my problem, just like a drink or a substance won't. And so now today I have the willingness to sit through uncomfortable emotions without practicing self-harm or self-sabotage. And that's the thing about vaping and nicotine and cigarettes is, first off, it's legal. Second off, it's very common. And thirdly, it takes a long time for, the negative side effects of, prolonged use to kind of show up. And I don't want to be living a life of recovery where I am still practicing methods of self-harm and self-sabotage. Now, I don't say this in a judgmental way. Everybody's got their own journey. And I fully support anybody and everybody who wants to make a change in their life. And like I said in the beginning of the video, this isn't to tell you, hey, you stop vaping. This is only to tell you, like, hey, whenever you're ready, like, here's an option that worked for me. Maybe this could work for you. I hope that I said something that inspired you guys. I hope that I said something that was a little bit thought-provoking and also a little bit educating. One more time, please do me a favor, hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the notifications button. That way you can be notified every time I put out some fresh content. But anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate you. I love you, and I'll see you on the next one.